You could read every article online, you could watch every video, you can do everything in your power to like grow. And there's a lot of growth in that when you do it by yourself. But true growth comes in community, where there are people who are pushing you forward.
Hi, y'all. Welcome back. It is season 3, and we are so excited to be here. Welcome to No Surprises, a look inside the ambitious, joyful, and occasionally journey of creators. We are here for season 3, and drum roll, please, Kelsey. Our season 3 theme is
community.
So this season, we're going to be talking to a lot of our partners and pals in our agency world about all of the things that are community-based. This is becoming a bigger and bigger topic, especially in the marketing world where people are just looking for those online communities, not just in person. So we have an incredible first guest kicking off with us.
I'm so excited. Today we have the incomparable David Alex joining us. So I have an official bio for David, and I'm gonna say it in just a second. But I will say David has been a huge part of our community. We love working with David. He and his team are our SEO partner, optimizing all of our We Could websites. But we connected years ago, I think probably at least 4 years ago at the beginning of the Squarespace experts as it currently exists. And I just was immediately like, this is our type of person. So David Alex is a top Squarespace expert, co-founder and managing partner at the destination for all of your SEO needs, Launch Happy. Full disclosure, they are a partner of We Could website, so we're a little biased, but David is also a prolific content creator with hours and hours logged helping other folks like We Could website and our designers and our clients make their SEO dreams come true. So David, we are so happy to have you. Thank you for being willing to come and hang out with me and Mallory. This is all just an excuse for us to hang out this entire podcast.
100%.
And I think we're going to be in person together in a week or two.
Yes.
Look at us.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me. And I feel the same way. Talking to you guys is so much fun, and learning from you guys as well, and partnering with you. You are the most exciting company to say I'm partnered with and get to work with all the time.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh my God, that's such a compliment.
I
know. I think we've been partners now for a year. When we asked y'all, we were like, we're done with at We Could website. We were like, we can't deliver on SEO the way we'd like to. And we were like, good news. We don't need to do this. We will just outsource.
Well, yeah, it was like a huge part of we raised our prices pretty significantly a year ago. And a big part of that was like, okay, we need to include this. I'm tired of upselling this. It's such an essential part of building websites. Will you tell people who are not as familiar with Launch Happy? Let's start there, because you have so many pieces of your work, but maybe you can give us kind of the how you built this. Where did it come from for Launch Happy?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So I started with, as many agencies start, I was just building websites as a freelancer. And I just realized that there was a certain point where I'd only be able to help so many people per month. This was the big crux for me, is I could work with, if 100 people message me for a website today, which would be amazing. But if 100 people message me, I wouldn't be able to service them. But how could I service them? And that was me looking at changing my model and my whole agency from servicing clients one-on-one to one-to-many, which basically means content. And so we really got heavy into the content game about 2.5 years ago. And so YouTube videos, we publish new YouTube videos every single week on Squarespace, how to optimize your site. We have over 45,000 people who engage with our content on Squarespace every single month.
Wow.
Which is wild to think about. And then we also have the blog, which gets in front of thousands of people every single month as well, who are looking for answers on Squarespace. And so our world is around written content and video content, on those two arenas, which opened up the community aspect, because we're helping so many people, but there's a lot of designers we're helping. And I don't want to jump ahead, but the community aspect is really where the business is going, because it helps so many people get into a position to grow, find freedom, all of that. And I love that aspect of it.
Yeah. So tell us about your community, because it feels like such a natural expression of what you've already done. And I will say, like, the content that you've created is so immensely valuable. I know that I got to ask you some very specific questions for this Squarespace book, but also referenced so many of your articles and videos throughout it. How did that grow into a community, and what are your goals with?
Yeah, when I started so the community is for Squarespace designers specifically.
Cool.
So if you are an aspiring designer, a small agency, a team of two, but you want to grow or scale how you build sites or scale your revenue, whatever those items are, what I learned for myself, and this is how I started. So I'm preaching to myself here, but this is really how it began for me. I had two really close friends who had been a bit further ahead in the freelance journey than I was, which allowed me to see how they did it, but they also propelled me to grow. And I just know this is kind of the motto of the community. You could read every article online, you could watch every video, you can do everything in your power to like grow. And there's a lot of growth in that when you do it by yourself. But true growth comes in community, where there are people who are pushing you forward. I remember one of the stories that really resonates for me is I was sitting with a friend and I just told them I had landed a like $1,800 project, and I was so excited. I did so much work to land it, and I just landed that project. On the same phone call, a few minutes later, he was sharing with me what he had done that day. And he told me that he had just landed like a $10,000 project, got a $5,000 deposit. And my mind was blown. I was in that moment, like, that was way beyond anything I had ever done before. And I was sitting there, and $2,000 was hard for me to land, to service a client at that value point. And he's sitting there doing it at $10,000 range. And it was like, it was almost easier. And so those aspects of community, I think, are so important for people to grow, develop, and all of that. It helped me get to where I am today. So I'm just helping other designers do the same. And then I am very, like, how would I say this? The CMS, like the Squarespace CMS, the Squarespace platform is honestly doing so much. And I'm not even saying this because this is like a bias towards Squarespace.
Right.
Platforms, and it's like, they're making it so easy for you to look beautiful online and keep a site updated. Like, there's a lot of fancy things you can do, but Squarespace has made it so easy for you to get started. So
I mean,
that,
there's a reason why we all work with them, you know?
yes,
it is.
Yes,
They make us look good.
Yep. That platform for me has made it, like, the way they've developed Fluid Engine and all of that, the platform has just made it like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. If you're trying to start as a freelancer, don't complicate your life. Like, keep it as simple as possible. This will help you grow, and it'll help your clients grow as well.
So I'm kind of curious, because we've gone through this as well, this question of growth. And I think when you start out, you think like, okay, I'm one person and I'm going to build X, and I need to do, this amount of business to hit my financial goals. And I think there ends up being this kind of natural evolution towards growth as you want to take on more work. You mentioned being able to service clients at a higher price point, which I think is like a really under discussed part of this. There's so much pressure to like raise your prices. But what a $10,000 client expects and a $2,000 client expects, like, there is a difference in terms of experience and process. But like, if you had to do it over again, knowing what you know now, thinking about your growth path and the evolution of your company, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you have any like, oh, I grew in this area and maybe I didn't need to, or I wish I had pushed further and faster in this section of my business? Like, is there any part of that growth story that you have like a different perspective on now that what year did you found?
I started in, you could say, 2016.
Okay.
That's when it started. And it really took off 2017. And then 2019 is when my income scaled a lot. And that's maybe where I could speak to this growth point.
Yeah.
I would say there was, the way I speak about numbers makes it seem like there were big jumps, but it was very gradual for me.
Yeah.
To get from 2,000 to 10,000, it took getting to 2,500 and then 3,000 and then 3,500 and then 4 and then 4,800 and then it hit like 6 and then 8 and then 10.
Yeah.
So there was definitely a gradual, and that's like time. That's like 2 years, 3 years of building that. So what I would say is, it's funny now because what you're talking to, the point you're hitting on here is, looking back on it, I wouldn't emphasize just looking for the $10,000 projects as much as there was stuff I learned there that was super important. But now what I do when I build sites is I have this thing called a weekend build, which we can talk about that if we want, but it's basically a $3,500 over the course of the weekend. I'm going to deliver to you an exceptional website as if you paid $7,000 for it, but we're going to do it over a weekend. It's not going to take 2 months. You're going to get your site fast. And so you don't have to think about this for 2 months. Every client who's done it so far loves it. I'm kind of prototyping it right now and seeing like what comes, but it's been a great process to learn that the 10,000 doesn't necessarily equate to the best revenue numbers as much as, and then also like the freedom aspect is a big part of my business. I like having availability of my schedule to, I'm going to go get coffee with a friend in the morning, or I'm going to work on something else in the morning, versus being like, I have to work on client projects all the time. So now that I know all of this, there is an element of freedom that I do continue to keep in the conversation. And I think the $3,500 project allows me that freedom, where I only really think about that client's project over 1 weekend versus a few months. Helps the client a ton, and it helps me a ton. The biggest lesson though, I would say, and like we can get in depth on the community side of it, but the biggest lesson I've learned is how to say no to money. When you're able to look at a client who's offering you 10K and you're like, oh, this, I've never done this before, but then you realize what they're asking is actually kind of ridiculous, or it's like way beyond $10,000.
Yeah, it's like in reality 50K.
Then there's the way you get confident there, I think, is how you get confident with any other client, because there's something so powerful in being able to say no to an opportunity that you know is not necessarily right for you. That aspect of being a designer, I think, gives you so, I wish I learned that earlier, because I would stress over $500. I would stress over like an $1,800 project. I'd stress over like things that I didn't need to stress about. And so learning that earlier on would have been a key indicator of how I took on projects in the future with more confidence as I got into it.
Yeah, like that's such an internalized lesson you have to learn. Is like, you have to go through a trial by fire. You just have to get hit with a couple of ones where you said yes, maybe a little too liberally to the project, and all of a sudden you're like, mental note, I don't want to be back here. I'm done here. We're saying no in the future. And that's how we got really good at saying no to a lot of projects. We're like, if it doesn't feel right in your gut,
I'm laughing because right in front of me, sitting on the windowsill, is the book of boundaries. Set the limits that will set you free. But I think this is a really hard thing when you're becoming a small business owner. Like, I haven't read it. I can't speak to it. An office mate gave it to me, but it's so hard to trust that intuition when your ability to pay your rent is also staring you in the face. Right. Like, that is very difficult, but I think that is one of those things that only experience will make you feel comfortable with that. Like, we are going through this situation right this second, right before this. We had a client, we've been talking to them for a long time. They're really lovely people. We think what they do is amazing, but it's just become very clear that like the way that their team is structured and their needs, we're not going to be able to meet them. And I think this is one thing that I do tell a lot of people when they're getting started in their careers is like, don't think of sales as selling. think of it as a matching conversation. Are you
So
a fit
good.
for each other? Not only does it take the pressure of, oh God, I have to do sales, which is very stressful and intimidating off of people, but it also takes away that, like, I have to close this deal. That's my job. And it always, I'm sure you see this in your community, because I see it in other places too, of people being like, this person ghosted me. How do I get them back? This person didn't respond to my proposal. How do I get them to respond? And it's like, you don't. Like,
Yeah.
if they're not
Yeah.
going to show up for you in the sales process, and they're not going to be excited about working with you now, this is just a harbinger of things to come. So, like, if the bird flies away, let it go.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
it go.
That's
It
a life
wasn't meant
lesson
to
right
be.
there.
Seriously. But
Right.
I
Isn't
am
it?
curious.
So deep.
Yeah.
We were doing
Yeah.
like a little pre-chat, and I want to go back to this because shameless plug, before we record all of these, we do a little quick few questions with our speakers. We don't record it. It goes right to the blog. So if you want to hear David's answers to these questions, you can check it out. But I want to talk about intuition, and I want to talk about building your business and building a community. You said that one of the mantras that you live by in terms of work is, what was it? Start before you're ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Start before you're ready.
How do you do that? It's so hard, but I also think that it is the defining characteristic of people who are successful, is their willingness to jump in. For you, when it comes to a community, that's hard to do because it's people. Tell us a little bit about that. How have you used that mantra in your work?
Yeah, I think that mantra is so key right now for me, because it's easy to do what you know. And this is really why this mantra is like so pronounced for me, is start before you're ready. Because if you, as I was kind of describing before, is if you wait until you're ready, you're too late. And then if you wait till you're ready, then you're actually just doing something you already know how to do, which in some ways doesn't make sense, because you need to grow into something new to be able to handle whatever that is. And typically it's something that seems impossible or just quite difficult. When I first started out, I'm lucky in this way because this has kind of been my foundation. When I landed my first freelance project, right? I built a few websites, but when I landed my first freelance project, the experience was great because it's like the funniest, I don't know, I think it's the funniest story. I was on the phone with one of my friends. I told you, like, two best friends that helped me through getting started. One of them, I was on the phone with them and he told me, why don't you run Google Ads for yourself? Because I wasn't landing any clients and I was just bummed out because I had time, but no potential clients. He said, why don't you run Google Ads for yourself? I remember listening to him say that and being so reluctant to even, like, I was like, that makes no sense. I had never done that before. So I had no idea that was even an option, what that was like. Reluctantly, the next day or 2 days later, I tried it. I tried something that did not make sense, reluctantly did it. The ads launched, I think I launched them on a Monday or Tuesday. Thursday, I got an email for a possible project. That project triggered into the next 4 months. I landed a project almost every week. It was wild. I went from literally 0 clients to I have now paid off all my debt. And then I launched the company officially a few months later. And then from there, we're now having these conversations. Like, it is crazy to think about the growth that happened from that one decision, that where it seemed impossible, it seemed like a waste of money. I didn't have a lot of money to do that.
Right.
But
right.
trying it helped me get into this position. So now today is, well, what am I doing that is pushing some level of growth in my life? And that was in January, I decided to launch a community. Probably late last year, I decided to do it. And then by March, I think it was the end of March, we launched. That was a big step because you don't know if 2 people are going to respond or 200 and what it's going to look like, how you price it, how you structure it, what it's based on. Initially, we were going to do a community for just Squarespace website users and designers. And then we decided just to do designers. I felt that was going to be more punchy and more valuable than trying to do both. And then now there's other steps that we're taking to look into the future of what Launch Happy could be, and the growth that could come in the company as well.
Wow. I mean, it's got to be so cool too, to see this assembled group of people that you share a passion and interest with. That's got to be one of the most fun parts of leading a community, is you're like, oh, cool. Like I got all my people in the same place and we all speak each other's shorthand, you know, our language around this. We can share joys and frustrations and challenges. And like, that's got to be such a special part of this step.
Yes, I have so much empathy for everyone in my community when I hear them talk about, like, I'm trying to launch my portfolio, or I just landed my first project and I don't know what to do. I have so much empathy for them because I understand those pain points as like so much, that I love being a part of a community where I can speak into that. But then when I see them winning, it's like we have a community wins tab where people post, I just landed a project, I just got the deposit, I just launched a portfolio, we just landed a bigger project than we had ever landed before. Any of those kind of comments are so cool to be like a part of a community where you know that everyone in the community too is helping each other, and we can get into those specifics as well. It's like community is an aspect of, there is like a quote unquote leader, but there's also this aspect of the culture is what should be driving the community as well. And so people inspiring other people, helping other people is a big aspect of the community that we run. So it's not just dependent on David. So it's not just like a support line where I'm the one answering everyone's questions. It's actually everyone answers everyone's questions.
How do you foster a sense of collaboration over competition? I think especially when it's like people who are all ostensibly like this used to happen between Justin and I all the time, where like we would be pitching the same clients because they would come to us and, you know, be Justin. I'm talking about Justin. Maybe he has his own agency, but he also was a long time Week of the Website. I actually think one of our first developers we ever hired.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
How do you tend to that in your own community? Because I'm sure there's this sense of like, we're sharing tactics and approaches, but also like there's gonna be days where people in that group are pitching the same clients.
Yeah, this is a great question. There's two things I really push on. So culture is not just what you like inspire people to do, but also clearly draw a line on. There's two aspects we draw clear lines on. Number one is complaining. So if anyone in our community starts to complain, they'll get a warning, and then the next time they'll get kicked out. I have no interest. Don't come on the platform and complain about the Squarespace platform. Don't come into the community complaining about Squarespace, complaining about things not working. If you're having a hard day, totally understandable. But complaining, you can't win in an area that you're complaining about. It's just not gonna work. So we have a very like clear rule there and culture. And it also goes into just the competition. It's a clear statement of there's more than enough people who need websites. Most people even need 2 or 3 websites in reality.
Yes.
So
Plenty of fish in the sea. There's so
Exactly.
much work out there. Like, we love the reciprocity between all of their agencies. Like, I feel like it was really surprising when we came in. Well, I shouldn't say when we came in. I mean, we've all pretty much been with Squarespace since relatively the beginning. And it just became like this, oh, at first you think that there's not going to be enough work. There's all this competition. You're like, oh my God, literally everyone needs a website right now.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID. I'm like, we're referring people all back and forth. We do it all the time where we're like, you're not a good fit for our agency and our way we work, but we know like 3 people you could definitely try out. It's so much better that way because we don't want to work with everyone. We can't work with everyone. And we are very specific shoe, and the shoe's got to fit. If the shoe doesn't fit for the Week of the Website process, it's not going to work.
Yes. And that's why that whole aspect that we talked about earlier about saying no, if you learn how to say no to money once, it gives you freedom in the future. And that aspect of it, like with what you're talking about, is like you make sure the shoe fits before you move forward. But at the same time, knowing that there's more shoes you could try on, especially in our day and age. Like, you have the whole internet working on your side. If you publish your site, you put content out there, you do those things that get you in front of people, you really don't have a lot to worry about in those regards. If you want to increase clients and things like that, competition is not your issue. There's other things that are your issue. So focus on the real issues and don't get caught up on these like false conversations.
It's not usually direct selling against your competition. It has to do with your positioning. It has to do with your positioning.
There it is. There it is.
You got to attract the people.
Yeah. I mean, and we've gone through different evolutions of that with our own company, but I agree. I mean, I think in any piece of technology, there's always going to be challenges because technology is always growing. And I think that's an area you and I have always been very in sync on, which is like, yes, there are challenges. And what do we do next? Right. And I think that it's that, and what do we do next? That can be such a delineation between people who are going to be able to continue to proceed forward in their careers, people who are going to be frustrated by the limitations that are inherent in growth and evolution. Like Mal has always been a very, very resilient person. And I'm like constantly impressed with her resilience of just like challenges come along. She takes them on board and then she like continues to move through. And I think that is such an essential part of being a creative in business for yourself, which is like, there's no one to complain to. There's no one above you. You are the above. You are the person.
You're going to have to go out and solve it. And it really becomes like, I listened to this recently and I was like, oh my God, they're like, when you've been through the hurricane, why are you going to worry about a couple little raindrops? Like every time it's raining, we're not going to go into an unproductive spiral here. Doesn't mean you can't be like, that sucks. But you just kind of are like, let's like make this productive. It's like, okay, well, we can't fix that. So you might just have to adjust your perception or your attitude here.
Yes.
Do you remember the first time you saw someone win in your community and what it felt like for you? Like, do you remember when the community started and you saw that first like celebratory moment? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
100%. Yes. So that community wins tab was a little bit quiet when we started out. So there were a few that started to go in there that I was really like happy about, but the one that hit me was when someone's actual life changed when they got a deposit. That was the biggest win, when I just saw them say, hey, I forget what it was, like a $2,000 project, and they got $1,000 deposit. Most people I talk to who are thinking about freelancing, who are thinking about like starting a side hustle, most people would just look for an extra $1,000 a month. And in one website, this person landed an extra $1,000. And that is like something that there's so many people who talk to me who want to that's all they want. And she had now accomplished it. And she now understands the feeling of it and how to do it and the process of it, all of that. That was so cool. That experience for me made the community worthwhile. I'll tell you that the back end, the financial side of the community is awesome, but it's not the biggest win for me. For the amount of time I put into the community versus the amount of dollars, it's not equivalent at all compared to just doing a website build. But the value of it is way different and way bigger. I also painted a very clear picture to the community right when it started, that everyone in this community are the future leaders that will be helping the next person who joins the community a year from now. So as soon as we launched, they had just joined the community, and I started to paint this vision that a year from now, you're going to be helping the person who's in your exact same position right now take it to the next level. So this gal who just landed that $2,000 project had $1,000 deposit. She now can help the person who hasn't done that yet, and help them take the next steps. That to me is like, that's what I'm building here. It's not a financial win as much as it is a win for the individuals to find that freedom. Because I know today, I say this with so much confidence. Do I want it to happen? No, but I say it with so much confidence. If I lost everything If Launch Happy disappeared, everything that, if Squarespace was no longer a platform and I couldn't build on that platform and my positioning was gone, I know I could step into something new, and I know how I would do that, and like how I'd be able to like progress in something. I wouldn't know all the steps, but I know I could do it. I just know I can do it because I've done it. I've done it before.
I love that. And I think the longer you're in business, the easier it is to feel like you're on that like hedonic treadmill of, oh, getting $1,000 deposit 9 years ago would have felt amazing. And now it's different, right? Because my life is different. Our company's different. What we need to keep our company going is different. And I think like being able to tap into that is such a good way to see it with fresh eyes. Like we are working on this project right now, and it's for the first time it's like a very important project to our company. And for the first time, Mallory and I are there in a purely supervisory role, which is freaky, wild, scary, amazing. But it's like we've been listening in on all these calls, and you feel just like overwhelmed by the growth of the people who are working on your team. And Mal and I actually went back and did positioning about a year ago. And it was like kind of an internal crisis for me, because I was like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Like, do I care about building websites? And it sounds like you and I and Mallory came to very similar conclusions, which is that like websites are the way that we work with people, and people are the thing that matter. Like if it all went away tomorrow and we had to do something different, that's fine, as long as we can keep working with our people, you know?
Yes, that's so well said. I think that aspect of it, there is an element over time where you just hit it nail on the head. You run into the situation where the $1,000 becomes normal, and it becomes a little bit too normal, where you're like, oh, actually I need to, because you're operating different, and it makes sense, you grow, but at the same time having those reminders, and even that team aspect is an aspect of community, right? Like your team that you built is a community. Absolutely. And it has its culture. And then when you're seeing people progress in a way where they're able to take ownership as if you were in the position, like that's so cool. And it's also a good sign of like the health of the individual. I don't know. My personal take on it is when someone's able to give back in that way in front of them, there's a confidence that they're going to be taken care of no matter what. Because this is where you could become, the competition drives this insecurity where I'm not going to share anything, because if I share it, well, then they're going to use it and then I'm going to lose out. It is not a zero-sum game. There's more than enough for everyone. And if anything, you're authentically you, so no one can take what you offer. There's actually someone who launched a very similar community around the same time. I love him. I love what he's doing. I want him to succeed. If they don't want to join my community, join his. Like,
or both. Different styles, right?
Different styles. Yeah. There's no like, and if anything today, I think the world is in a place where it's like you want a community. You're not looking for one community that answers everything. You're looking for something that helps you get closer to where you're headed. Don't aim for like, oh, is this going to answer every problem in my life? It's like, this, if it helps you get closer, it's probably worth it. It's like, it's probably worth it just in that, instead of putting this huge pressure on every decision. I buy courses and communities and things pretty easily. I don't overthink them. If I really believe this is going to help me go in the direction I want, I believe in it more than school. Why would I get into thousands of dollars of debt for school for a degree that I'm not using, but I'm not willing to spend a few $100s on a course that this person speaking in terms of 2023 value, in terms of like putting me in a community with other people who think the same way. What we're even talking about is very rare. To us, it's everything, because everyone we talk to knows it in this world. But then when you go on the street and you're sitting at a cafe or you're sitting at a restaurant, if you tap the person next to you and say, how much do you know about Squarespace design?
They'd be like,
yeah.
I used Square one time when I bought something at the farmer's market. And you're like,
no Squarespace.
no.
Yeah.
Well, David, I can't think of a better place to end. I would like to chat with you forever, but thank you so much for sharing a little insight with us. We are going to for sure put links to David's community in the show notes. We'll also share Launch Happy. And yeah, it's just been really a pleasure to have you.
Thank you guys so much. I enjoyed this time a ton.
Oh, me too.
Well, you can subscribe to No Surprises where you get your podcasts. You can also watch this delightfulness on YouTube. Our website is weekofthewebsite.com. You can also find us on Instagram at weekofthewebsite. Plenty more to come. We've got 9 more episodes coming at you this season. And we're really excited to dive even further into the hot topic of community. Woohoo! Thanks, everyone. Bye.